with Saugatalks. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We do appreciate if you follow us on LinkedIn, on X, on YouTube, and listen to us on major podcasting platform, because I'm Irene and I'm speaking with fascinating people in tech. Today is my day because Ben Boats is with me. Ben, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Irene. How are you?
I'm doing exceptionally well, because the topic of this conversation that we announced is going to be how AI is transforming. To me, entrepreneurship and startups is a fascinating area. I encourage everyone to follow Ben on LinkedIn. You will be wiser and smarter because of this step. So Ben, could you please describe to us, how do you see AI is transforming or not? Okay, stage is yours, because you're the guest of the show, and please just share what you see out there. Is it helping? Is it hurting? What kind of the overall take on the fast evolving AI landscape?
Thank you. And it's such a fascinating topic. I think we've seen a groundswell of people certainly talking about AI. I mean, increasingly we see a lot of experts on AI. Certainly, I think from entrepreneurship specific area specifically, what we are seeing is a lot of movement. I feel people probably have more access to information now. You can do research more quicker. You can optimize more quicker. You can find data around your competitors and your markets, and so forth. And there's obviously then the automation pieces that are adding value to businesses, a range of areas, right? In terms of content creation and marketing, in terms of optimizing processes within the organization, we're seeing a lot of movement certainly around that. I mean, different stages of businesses clearly would be utilizing the technology in different ways. If we think about early stage, then in many ways testing and finding a fit for your product becomes a little bit earlier. Different companies obviously start different businesses in different ways. Broadly, we've got these two groups. The one group being entrepreneurs who spot a perceived gap in the market and then start to develop solutions within those gaps. And then you would have other, typically people who are experts in their field. And this could be data analysis, this could be engineering, this could be coding and programming, who come up with a concept and then try to find a gap within the market for their product to fit into. And I think on both sides of this equation, we're starting to see more speed, failing faster, iterating quicker, and allowing you to reach different markets by perhaps testing different customer personas, for instance, through AI, in more of an efficient way. And then obviously making sure that when you do start to talk to real clients or potential customers, that you've already optimized your content, or you're already optimized and perhaps tested and failed a few times through the use of maybe AI testing, in terms of what fits with the market. So it's a big conversation. I feel if we go to specific areas, we could perhaps provide a bit more detail around those specific areas, but it'd be difficult to find anyone who we see probably don't see this as a huge opportunity.
Let's start with strategy first, right? You mentioned
Yes.
a lot of ways, right? AI sounds like AI is transforming the reality for founders, for workers, for clients, for partners, right? For the entire ecosystem, right? At the same time, where do you see the highest value for the new ventures? Because we know there are lots of successes, lots of disappointments, right? Lots of, frankly, failures, okay? So what's the highest value from the strategic standpoint?
If your question is related to startups that are building around the AI opportunity, so leveraging the technology in order to build their own businesses, that would be one question to look at, and certainly in terms of plugging in AI, so ChatGPT as an example, into your own programs. We're starting to see a lot of that, where AI in itself is a technology, a little bit similar to perhaps what e-commerce was in the early stage, or how the internet was in the early stage. But then really to use the technology to optimize what they are already doing. So if these are logistics-based businesses, as we see a lot in sub-Saharan Africa, where we are active as an example, or if these are fintech businesses, maybe from that perspective, customer experience perhaps become optimized as an example. So there's different sides of the scale. On the other hand, if we're looking at people starting or scaling now and looking and utilizing AI as a tool to support them in doing that, that's where I perhaps see as the big opportunity here. Our focus is less on focusing on businesses who are developing AI as concepts, and perhaps and focusing more on what we're increasingly seeing more companies in doing, and using AI as part of the stack of how they are then developing their businesses moving forward. So using AI as part of their market analysis tools, or using AI as part of the optimizing processes or content development from a marketing perspective, or becoming a chatbot to give customers more specific support or help in terms of utilizing their products or services, for instance. I see the second or the latter perhaps more as the opportunity as far as I can observe currently.
Let's think about maybe scaling with AI, right? Because we understand AI can enable scalability like never before, but it also introduces complexities, right? So what are some of the challenges that you see the startups are facing to scale their business, their operations, and to grow? Any like major challenges that you've seen that companies now overcoming?
If I think about the scale-up businesses that we talk to, there's roughly, I think, probably 4 or 5 common challenges that many of them are facing. The first one is perhaps for founders or founding teams to step away from the business and look at it at more from a strategic perspective. The opportunity there is to introduce AI to optimize some of the processes that's happening within the organization, so that you as the founder or the founding team can remove yourself from some of what's happening in the business, whether this is about talking to customers, this is about dealing with suppliers or distributors or whatever the case may be, or just optimizing reporting processes within the organization. If you can use AI to optimize that and to automate some of that, it allows you to step back, and look at the business more from a strategic perspective. A second big challenge that we see scale-ups in facing, certainly, as we see it at the moment, is to ensure that you have the right people doing the right jobs within the business, right? And so this means, do I have the right type of quality of people that I probably have to bring in if this is pre-funding, or maybe if you've got a limited amount of funding, to support the business in optimizing their marketing or collecting data to help them to understand the different markets that they want to perhaps scale into. Then once again, AI has the opportunity to support you in terms of collecting that data, aggregating data from different sources, and then obviously utilizing that data to make more informed decisions. If these decisions could be related to, okay, I want to enter, I don't know, Asian market, for instance, or I want to target the sub-Saharan African market. So you can very easily find unique customer needs, wants and demands within those markets. You can start to find who active players are within those markets. AI can help you perhaps to predict what potential commonalities are within those markets, and then that obviously allows you to create better offerings or product and service combinations in order to target those markets with. If we then do start to think about targeting specifically, and we want to look at just thinking of an example of a couple of conversations I've had recently within certain parts of the world being very mobile orientated, as an example. Then once again, I'm thinking about the sub-Saharan African market, where the main channel really through communication are mobile devices. AI can very quickly help you to optimize and maybe suggest specific content strategies through which you can then target on mobile devices that may be more data intensive. And so something like video perhaps might not necessarily be the optimized content mode to communicate with people in Kenya or Ghana or Uganda or whatever the case may be. So once again, then optimize your content to target audiences in that part of the world with something that works there versus something different that might be working somewhere else, like the UK or the US, for instance, where you are. So it's very difficult to give a one-size-fit-all solution to companies everywhere, because clearly the environments are very different. And certainly in terms of scale up, if that then means that you are starting to diversify into different markets, because that's where your revenue opportunities exist, then utilizing AI as a data agent to provide you with more insight in terms of what is relevant within different markets, what the opportunities are, and how to enter those markets. There's also opportunities around that. So one thing that entrepreneurs certainly do very well is to think outside of the norm, if you like. And so, experimenting with different types of prompts, experimenting with different ways of how AI can support your business. And at the same time, remembering that your competitors are also going to have access to similar tools. So there's perhaps some of the challenges. They're also going to have access to similar data. And so a bit of creativity and innovation in terms of how we then use a combination of AI tools will perhaps become the next challenge. Because AI absolutely is an opportunity, but it also levels the playing field in many ways, in terms of allowing you and your competitors with access to very similar tools, similar data sources, and so forth. And so, the next opportunity to innovate would be to utilize different combinations of AI tools, perhaps, in order to then overcome your competition, or find a niche, if you like, in terms of how you play in specific markets and how you compete against others.
Exactly. It looks like we are better because of AI, right? We are more capable, but so is everyone else.
Correct.
Right. So that's the point you bring up. Everyone becomes more competitive and stronger all of a sudden. So yes, the point of creativity and the originality and the market feed. Okay. What about funding though? So how investors see AI driven startups nowadays? Because it used to be, right, as long as you have magic word somewhere in your product, you're golden. It's not like that anymore. So what are the realities today, right, at the end of 2024?
Well, I think investors hopefully learned from the dot-com boom that and bust that we saw, in a similar way when crypto came in. Well, I see Bitcoin's price is up again today, so I don't necessarily say that crypto has gone, but we did see a big wave of excitement around that, and that then also died down. So I think over the last, certainly thinking back maybe 20, 25 years, investors have become a bit more wise in terms of how to deal with opportunities that emerge through technology. And in the same way, I feel from an investor's perspective, it's about the underlying value rather than the shiny technologies that companies are using to do that. I have once again had a few really interesting conversations, just recently around the investment landscape, the amount of funding available in the landscape at the moment, and we know probably over the last 4 or 5 years that funding is certainly not dried up. I mean, there's certainly a lot of available funds still out there, but investors are a little bit more picky in terms of what they invest in. And so what that meant is that where companies in maybe pre-pandemic, I would say, could get away with raising large amounts of money with something perhaps that wasn't well developed, where the amount of depth and underlying value wasn't necessarily there. What we are now seeing is that investors have more choice. There's more opportunities to look at a broader range of businesses looking for funding. And so finding those companies that are using AI, amongst other things, to really build the underlying value of those businesses, that's what we're seeing more of. I think if I think about it from the company side, researching what different investors are investing in is becoming easier. Optimizing both business plans and pitch decks, depends obviously on who you talk to and what they require in support of that, has become far more straightforward and streamlined. And certainly also very quickly aggregating information about who else is playing in the category that you are active in as a business, has become far more streamlined. A little bit separately to that, but also related to that, is that typically what we find, certainly at early stage level, is that typically companies are being started by people who have something in common. And if these are programmers, or if these are engineers, or whatever the case may be, or maybe AI engineers in this instance. The shortcoming around those teams is that they're very much category focused or very much technology focused, and they often lack the supportive skills around that. And whether these are business development, sales and marketing skills, as an example, whether these are more corporate finance and accounting skills, perhaps, often those surrounding skills, if I can call them that, is missing within small teams. Now, I do feel that AI has the opportunity to play a real role there, because you can very quickly, be creative in terms of understanding, well, what are the skills that we are missing, and how can we ensure that we are at least thinking about the right questions and we are providing the right type of answers to investors when they do come up with the questions. Because if you're a team of engineers or a team of programmers, or a team of fintech founders, if you like, investors would want to know around how you're taking it to the market. Have you thought about nuances within your specific market and what your competitors are doing there? And AI can help us to prepare better and have those answers when from a startup perspective, are talking to investors. So there's opportunities and certainly challenges. I don't necessarily think that investors are naive enough to simply just throw money behind something that has AI in the title or the underlying technology, as perhaps it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, because there's been such a huge momentum behind a lot of people coming to say, well, I've got something in my startup that's AI related. That's not necessarily going to cut it, but using it as a strong part of the underlying value of the business that allows the company to be more solid and prepared, and clear around how to enter your market and so forth. I think there's a lot of opportunities around that.
We know AI is changing many professions, right? So
Yes.
in the environment of the startup, where of course, I mean, you always short on skills, you're short on resources. That's the beauty of it, right? That's why you have freedom of choice, what you want to do, how you want to do it, right? So what kind of advice you would give to founders or leaders who are thinking about these very tight, very productive, extremely capable teams now with all the tools available?
I would hate to give an answer to this question, although I will obviously do it, because there's so many different markets in which we operate, and so it's I think it's always about the underestimation and the overestimation. I think at the moment we're really overestimating the value that AI can provide, because we are saying, well, because AI is in place, we don't need a content creator, or we don't need a finance guy anymore. We don't need somebody to do our data collection or analyze our data. At the same time, the more we are using AI, the more we are also identifying the drawbacks and the current limitations of it. Many of these, or the majority of these, still remain large language models, which means that they are trained on existing data, information and data that already exists. And then within that also lies its limitations. I think the US election just recently, looking at the results this morning, it was really interesting to see how so many of the pollsters, even though they've got access to all the different AI tools, and I'm sure they would have been using that to predict results in any case, was so wrong, because the limitation of data analysis still relies on the type of questions that we are asking, and the way that we are viewing the outcome of these outputs. And so for me, in terms of staffing and team compilation, it will remain, and it will always remain for me, you need to have a diverse set of skills within the business. When there are deep level of expertise, it also means that there's immediately a lack of awareness around everything that sits outside of that expertise. And so, if you have a diverse set of people within the business, even if that just means they can ask different questions, or look at the solutions in a different way, or maybe try to understand the market in a different way, that has got to support the business. Now, on the other hand, obviously, we know the issue of resource constraints, especially at early stage pre-funding levels, would always be the case. And yes, absolutely, you will be perhaps not using an expansive content team any longer, because you can create and turn out content quite quickly. At the same time, obviously, platforms like Google and social media sites in themselves have become more wise to the fact that, startups and agencies and so forth are using AI to develop content. And so they would be looking at something unique and original, because clearly that's what their audience would be interested in. So I do feel that we are maybe overestimating the value that AI can provide from a team perspective. Yes, of course, we can optimize our content, and we can do market research more quickly, and we perhaps find out who the VCs are that we can talk to, or find out about contacts within supply channels that we need to be communicating to. But the human element for me will remain important, because the humans are the ones who look at things from different perspectives, ask questions in different ways, and interpret the output of what comes from the AI in different ways. So I
That's
feel
music. Yeah.
balance. The answer has been the word balance for so many years, irrelevant of the technology that we are looking at. And certainly from an AI perspective, I feel that we do need to have a balanced view in terms of the value that it provides.
That's music to my ears. Okay, so this conversation, this podcasting episode, all right, just exact example of authentic content creation. So I encourage everyone, okay, to reach
Absolutely.
out to us, right? Help us to make your voice heard, because with all the AI generated podcasts, we still want this human imperfection. Okay, we don't want these machine voices. We want my accent, I guess. We want band expertise delivered right to you. Okay, that
Yeah.
brings something that you can relate to, maybe, right? And this way, we still very, very needed as a human beings with our own unique, traits and
Yeah.
set of shortcomings.
100%. And I mean, there's been a lot of AI experts, I don't like the word expert, that's spoken about this fact already, that yes, of course, I mean, the predictions are anyway that, AI will probably be understanding the world in a similar way to what we do, in 2025, and probably overtaking the way that we understand the world, a little bit later on, because it's evolving very quickly. But at least in the medium term, my belief is that we would still need humans. Absolutely, we would need humans to interpret, to ask questions, to combine things in unique ways. And from a business perspective, I think COVID taught us a lot about what on-screen interaction, for instance, means, and how that is different from a face-to-face perspective. And there will always be the unique combination of people engaging with each other in a different way that comes, and creates new opportunity and lead to more creativity. And I feel the same thing is happening with AI.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we did talk about talent, right? But never touched on risks and ethical considerations. Seems
Yes.
like wherever you go, everyone talks about ethics and risks and how
Yeah.
AI is overtaking our world. You kind of touched on it. What a kind of considerations again founders have to think in very practical terms.
Well, I mean, as AI is helping us a lot with data collection, research, and so forth. In certain sectors, certainly if I think about sectors like healthcare, for instance, we need to be absolutely careful, coming from an ethical consideration perspective. The risks are certainly still around putting too much belief in the outputs from AI. Once again, AI has its limitations as it's trained on existing data, and obviously, the world changes constantly, and it has again, certainly today from a political perspective, as an example. And so, the danger certainly is that we are becoming over reliant on data, for instance, or outputs, that AI is providing us. So, finding a balance in terms of the value that we see within our AI outputs, specifically within certain sectors, and I spoke about healthcare as an example, there will be and will remain some ethical risks around that. From a pharmaceutical perspective, certainly also, once again, these are risks that are related to our own health and our own existence as humans. And so I think we need to be careful in terms of putting too much reliance on information and data coming from AI outputs.
looking into the future now. Okay, that's fun. I think in my conversations, it's always good to ask, right? What excites you the most, though? Okay, because we did talk about automation. We talked about very applied applications and how much more productive we all are because of
Yes.
the tools we have, right? In terms of the exciting future, what traits you see, what trends you see rather, that's gonna help startups, help entrepreneurships again achieve their own goals?
Well, one of the big limitations that we have as humans is that our ideas and our creativity and our belief systems is based on what we are aware of, right? The knowledge that we are aware of, the world around us that we've been exposed to, the people that we speak to, and we all are part of some small and some larger networks, and these networks in many ways influence what we see as possible in our belief systems. Now, because AI is almost immediately giving us access to far wider belief systems and information perhaps that we've never considered before, what I'm really excited about is the level of creativity that comes from this. Because immediately now we can fail faster, we can experiment much more quicker, we have access to more data from many different parts of the world. We could create ideas very quickly, right, around things that we've never thought about before. And so I think I feel like I'm a very creative and innovative person, and creative ideas really excites me. And I feel that there's just over the last, couple of years, very quickly have we become aware of things that we never really thought possible in the past. And so this level of speed around creativity and innovation is what really excites me.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's why we do what we do. That's why the startups, the founders become the leaders of their own small teams, hopefully growing bigger, hopefully, achieving their objectives. At the same time, yes, the risks, the challenges, some of the advice. Please, again, I encourage everyone to follow Ben, to follow us at Saugatalks. We speak with fabulous people. They're so generous with their time to share their expertise, to share their experiences rather here on Saugatalks. Ben, thank you so very much. Time is flying. Good conversations seem to be very short, shorter than we wanted to be. In conclusion, could you please maybe leave us with few takeaways? We did talk about new wonderful future ahead of us because we are creative, we still be needed, but enhanced with fabulous tools, enhanced with all the expertise and frankly all the opportunities ahead of us. So any takeaways for founders, for startup contributors, for investors, and just to everyone in the world out there?
Well, I think that the opportunity is to experiment. As different cultures look at risk in a different way, and I feel the exciting thing here is that AI allows us to to risk in a limited way, to test ideas in a contained environment. So be creative, go out there and experiment, find and be curious. I think in terms of what the AI environment and technology provides us. Step out of your comfort zone and create something. Connect with people who's got similar interests to you, maybe that you find through AI networks and so forth. I think that's really where the opportunity is, and I'm quite excited to see what comes next.
Perfect. Thank you, Ben, so very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Good to speak to you.